guys? Welcome to June 21st pre-recorded Zoom. Immediately following our bias from Friday, our bias was pretty much that we are basically anticipating the continuation from terms of major intraday to swing. Sorry about that, 1 second. Our immediate continuation was potentially finding that continuation into the upside. However, we will not invalidate the overall bias only until we reach our previous low. Excuse me. So although we did not get the immediate continuation, this in theory is better. Why? Because we're technically right now not trying to catch a continuation, but more so bearish transition into bullish move, or bullish transition from bearish pullback to continuation into the upside. And as you can see, we're kind of getting it right now. All this is doing right now is technically giving us much more of a discounted price, but I don't want to necessarily count out the bearish bias just yet. As of now, we're technically seeing the bullish transition come into play. It wasn't the prettiest ever. I was waiting to see if we were going to actually fill inefficiency, which we didn't, but I'll show you more with EURUSD. But as of now, H2 inefficiency is now confirming an LG, confirming LG. So realistically, as of now, I am very positive that we will probably come into a previous high. I don't necessarily know how far we will go after that, but just because we've already seen a bearish reaction completely fail, how we react after this high is going to be extremely crucial. Just because from an effort standpoint, this is not a substantial new high, in comparison to previous structural points. So the momentum is definitely slowing down. Right now, it's just a matter of time of seeing whether whatever happens here is going to transition us downward or upward. So yeah, coming into EURUSD, I was anticipating still that bearish bias, and let me explain why. Because we were basically anticipating the continuation into the downside, because we have potentially seen a type of accumulation, or a potential accumulation. I wouldn't say it's fully complete. I also don't like where it's at, and by that I mean where I had mentioned that we are already so close to our daily target that it would make sense for any type of recovery to realistically be just a sign of a pullback to continue further down. So as we said, this bullish move should not be interpreted as a overall transition to the upside, because that would only be confirmed only until the overall structural point is taken. But we created a solidified high here, which led into the bullish mitigation. So technically, from a minor intraday standpoint, this mitigation, and just to be specific, this mitigation should be targeting a previous high, only if, in my opinion, it was a pro trend move. So as of now, we know that the invalidation for the short term, it was invalidated, I believe it was last night. 2 nights ago, I'm sorry, on Sunday night. Yes, Asia session. And that was invalidated for the continuation aspect, However, I don't want to fully count out the bearish bias until this is taken. Once this is taken, then we know that we are inside of bullish structure. But however, I'm not fully convinced, if we're looking at this from an order flow perspective, you could see the clear mitigation there, and if we follow that POI, we get our bullish our wick, and we get our candle of interest. The candle of interest is a general view, whereas the wick view right, can you see is, as you can see, is a lot more accurate, right? But I'm not necessarily too worried about this. Why? Because internally we are still bullish, right? And we didn't necessarily get, right, a proper transition unless you're staring at M1 here, right, and you catch the bearish mitigation, and that would have been mid-London. So today, right, I was pretty confident in that bearish bias. I just necessarily didn't get anything in terms of a model in play. For example, we created our bearish structural range just before session, right? Yeah, session started here, right? However, we had already seen a clear attempt to come lower, which failed here. Once that failed, that then failed to create a high based on that. So realistically, we were in no man's land, and I did not really find any way to properly justify a bearish position, especially because we're seeing potentially, right, consolidation, breakout, mitigation, continuation, but this did not succeed in giving us a bullish move. However, I did not want to take this just because of my overall bias in hand. However, now we can see that technically we are showing our hand here, and to interpret this in a much simpler sense, we can, right, keep our, obviously, our structural range, right, but I'm seeing liquidity start to be cleared, right, and we have now given a reaction to the downside. So in reaction, in correlation, this would be considered a type of liquidity grab, potential structural disruption, right? However, all I care about is that we gave a reaction in one side and failed to create a new higher high, which led into the continuation BOS in the opposite direction. So as of now, I am 100% bearish. I don't necessarily have a reason to justify a type of bullish scenario. You can also argue, right, that you're in a potential point of interest right now, which I would not be surprised if this starts to begin a recovery. But we're about to close, right, our H4 here, right, and we're also, right, this looks very bearish to me because it looks like a bearish rejection from a daily. And as you can see, we've already cleared, right, liquidity for, created, I believe it was last night. Yeah, right around London session, liquidity has been cleared. This, if this is now confirmed, now from the perspective of taking a previous high, then into taking the previous low here, that would then also justify a bearish position. So we're seeing potentially the minor intraday and the scalp essentially paint us a picture, which could then take out minor intraday structure, which from an overall view could justify why we continue lower, right? Mitigation potential LG, and even if we come here, that would be less probable than if we were to just immediately break structure, get a pullback, and then get this. That would be more of a high probability scenario from my end. AUDUSD, I saw a bullish reaction today, but I wasn't too attentive with it. All right, I know that we are technically bearish just because of the bearish structural range that is created, and that we have a bearish liquidity grab in play based on that high and obviously the low that we have just that we already had there. So we had a bullish reaction today, right? And this is now becoming conflicting. Why? Because we have technically created a bullish model, which realistically on paper means that this is a realistic scenario to go up higher. However, I'm not too confident, right, that this will be the immediate play that pretty much converts us, just because we have failed to create a new bullish structural range. We have failed to clear the high here. So I would be more so attentive to see what happens today during Asia session, because although we did not create, right, a new bullish range, right, I'm going to make this the invalidation for the bearish bias right there. Although that did not occur, what has occurred internally is right, a bearish liquidity grab. So I really want to see what happens here, right? To see, well, this would probably hit during Asia session since M5 and we're approaching the end of New York session. So what happens here during Asia session will really dictate how we will react for quite a bit. Of course, I don't know what will happen after this liquidity is met, if it is met, right? But just as of now, I'm more so being much more inclined into that bearish bias, but we'll definitely see how this reacts over the next couple of days. But yeah, for the meantime, like we said, we're technically bullish with DXY, just because we're seeing the bearish to bullish transition based on the overall bullish trend. But yeah, that'll probably settle it, and we'll see how this manifests itself over the next couple of days, and we will see how our price action is on Friday. So yeah, I'll see you guys then.